Hey guys, it's Nicole and I'm back with another layout from the April 2013 Super Sketch Club kit. This is by Scrapbook Generation and this is the fourth layout, and this is the one that they call Sketch Day 2. In 2015, I want to say they started calling Sketch Day 1 and Sketch Day 2, they started just calling the different parts of the kit club Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. This particular one, I decided to follow Debbie's sketch. I am going to add a couple extra photos. I was using pre-printed photos that I had from a trip that we took to Hawaii, and as I was going through the photos, I was kind of almost wishing that 8 years ago I kind of knew what I now know about photography, and I wish I had the camera that I had now, because I just was looking at some of those pictures thinking, why did I take such bad pictures? But the trip to Hawaii was one of those things where it was probably the only time that my husband and I would have ever taken a trip like that, and especially now that we have little kids, like, I don't see us really traveling much, so I don't know that I'll ever be able to go sort of back and take better pictures. So I am just kind of moving on from that and sort of appreciating the fact that we were able to go and I do have those pictures. So it's just kind of funny to look back and see pictures that you took 8 years ago after you've been scrapping, pictures that you took recently. So all I've done is follow the cutting instructions on the sketch that they provided, and I used a small corner rounder on the outside corners, and then I'm just taking vintage photo distress ink, just a dark brown ink, to ink the edges of all the papers. And typically they will put in the instructions sort of what color of ink that they used. Most of the time I will just use vintage photo, or if the paper line uses like a black, I will use the black distress color. I can't think of what it's called, something soot, black soot. And I will just kind of stick to those two colors. I used to use the little cat eye chalk inks, was a die-hard fan of those, and I just got tired of when you run them across the edges of your pages, the little foam starts to kind of get eaten up, and all the little pieces would land on your project, and you'd kind of have these little spots of ink, or they would dry out, or the little foam would just come completely off the base of the thing, and it would just make me so frustrated. So when I bought a pack of those little mini distress cubes to try, oh my gosh, I fell in love with them. Now I feel like I want to get every color, because when I do classes at my local store, for years everybody there has always done sort of tone on tone inking like the edges of die cuts and stuff. So if you had red paper, we would always use red color box ink on the edges, and I was like, these mini cubes are fantastic. So I've been using those even on my classes for like the bright colors and stuff. Another thing to note about the second and third part of these kits, because the Super Savers usually comes with a full 12x12 sticker sheet or a pack of die cuts or ephemera, the part 2 and part 3 is sort of where you are using the papers that they give you to make your embellishments. So like here I am cutting all those strips apart from the pattern paper that had the strips on it, notching the ends, and then cutting them in half, and that is sort of becoming part of the embellishments. And then later on, one of those strips that had the flowers on it, you fussy cut the flowers, and that becomes your main embellishment. And here I am trimming down my photos, following the sketch. There was 2 portrait 4x6s, and I did not have any portrait photos at all from this excursion that we had gone on. So I decided instead to trim them down to be 2 3x4s stacked on top of each other in that space. And it worked out well because I had about 8 or 9 photos that I was wanting to use together. I didn't want to split them up, and I really didn't want to put like a divided page protector between them or anything like that. So I went with these 8, and then the one at the top of my desk, I ended up trashing it because I don't know if it's blurry on my camera or if it only printed blurry, but whatever that pink fish is that I just had to have a picture of was blurry, so I decided I'm just not even going to use that. I'm going to make these other 8 fit, and I got lucky that I was able to find enough areas to crop out that didn't really take away from what was in the photo. And again, here, these are those flowers that I was talking about that you just fussy cut from one of the pattern strips that was on that paper with all the strips. And just fussy cut them out, put a piece of foam tape on the back, and those, like I said, those strips and those flowers was pretty much it as far as embellishments for these. Looking back, I probably could have grabbed some enamel dots and put them on there. I didn't, only because this was one of those layouts that I kept having to work on kind of 15 minutes here and 15 minutes there. So by the time I was done with you know, everything that they had included on the instructions, I was done. And it wasn't even like it was that long of a layout or long of a process. It was just I kept having to set it aside and come back to it. Here I decided to take some glossy accents and go ahead and coat all of these flowers. And I did cut most of that out of the video. I just did 2 at a time and kind of gave my hand a break. I do like that bottle. I really like the tip. The bottle part of it doesn't work for my hand. Like, my hand cramps up pretty quickly using that shape. So I may look into either a different type of bottle or getting the one that's just the tip and sort of putting it on my glossy accent bottle. So again, I did that for all of them, and then this little cluster was made from more of those stripe strips. You just trim them down, notch them, kind of put them in a cluster. The title piece was provided in the kit. They printed it on some of the cardstock. And then there was a leftover piece of one of the pattern papers that had a solid orange color on one side. So I decided to do my journaling strips on that. And anytime I have sort of a weird shaped paper like this that I'm trying to cut my journaling strips from, I will just put a piece of like ATG or tape on the back of it, mostly just to hold it still while it's on my paper trimmer. And it kind of helps keep it still because it's so thin you can't hold it with your finger, and the little guide won't hold the paper down. And I'm going to ink the edges of these two so that they match everything else. And then I really wanted to kind of have them blending in with the different patterns in the banners, but I felt like they were getting lost. There wasn't enough room to put them all on that blue one, and I really didn't want to draw attention to the fact that I put that one on upside down. So I decided to just go ahead and put them all down here on this or the red section. And I believe in the sketch they had them all the way on the right next to that last photo, but I ended up my journaling strips ended up being longer, so I just decided to put them down here. So that was pretty much it. Here's another shot of the completed layout, a close-up shot of that little cluster with the title, and then just a close-up shot of those flowers that were fussy cut, the journaling, and some of the glossy accents. So as always, thanks for watching.